Hey guys, I'm Alex. I'm the singer of the band Melancolia from Melbourne. We've got our debut album coming out in under 2 weeks now through Nuclear Blast and around the world and Grayscale in Australia and New Zealand. It's called HissThroughRottenTeeth. Yeah, it's pretty much where we're at.
Beautiful, Alex. Thanks for joining us today, brother.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Right. So, as you mentioned, Melancholia released your debut album, Hiss Through Rotten Teeth, on April the 21st. So, are you getting more or less nervous the closer it gets to release date?
Oh man, I'm waiting for it just to drop. We've been sitting on it for so long. I'm at the point now where I'm like, I need this out in the world. It's making it a struggle for me to work on newer music.
Yeah, right. So, tell us a bit about the album from a musical point of view and what you're going for with it.
So essentially I guess you'd call it a some kind of like mutation of the deathcore genre. Musically fairly influenced by early Whitechapel, particularly New Era of Corruption era. That's got to be like top 10 album for me. But yeah, just sort of going for that, like, I guess like a melodic, I don't want to say blackened. There's definitely some influence of that in there, but it's definitely more like if melodic death metal was deathcore instead. So yeah, think more like Black Dahlia Murder, but with breakdowns and some spooky synth sections.
Cool. And you've released the singles In Your and Horror Ethereal. So, are they a good sonic representation of the album as a whole, would you say?
Yeah, I'd say both of them have a little bit of everything that's going on in the album. I'd say Horror Ethereal, we chose to release that first purely due to the fact that that seemed to have a section in that song that covered every single part of the album. We definitely touch on some stuff that's a bit more further aligned melodic, probably almost lines in closer to like metalcore. But yeah, those two songs nearly perfectly represent everything that happens in that album.
And so, loosely put, the EP centers around a torturous tale of birth, life, and death, but it goes much deeper than that, bro. So, run us through the story arc in greater detail.
Cool. So essentially, I always write in concepts. I never write just like random songs. And the idea for me is always to write like a story start to finish. So basically, and then it basically incorporates stuff, thoughts and feelings and events that have happened in my life within that. So essentially, what we've got is a story of a deity that's sort of been cast from the heavenly realm or whatever the afterlife is or another universe. It's been cast as punishment into the human realm and has been birthed as a human, but still retaining all of its information and knowledge of being a god. So basically, it's forced to live as this all-powerful being with no use of its power, stuck in this sort of mortal vessel and has to go through life as a human while knowing all this stuff and being stripped of its power, essentially.
Right. Pretty full on subject content, mate. Like, does that all come out of your head or did you get some of that from me?
Yeah. No, none of it. Like, I mean, I'm always influenced by movies, but I'm more influenced by like moods and atmospheres, not stories. This one, I'm sure there's a little bit of an amalgamation of like, it's definitely got like a bit of a vibe. I think it was in Paradise Lost. It's a book, and it's sort of the Bible from Lucifer's perspective. Not to say that it's like satanic in any way. It's just more so like, I guess, yeah, just that sort of a vibe, like looking at it from a misunderstood perspective, I guess. But yeah, none of it's come from a movie. It's just sort of everything sonically and visually inspired by movies. Nothing in particular, just stuff that I've picked up over the years watching a lot of horror.
So, is there a message to take out of all of it?
That I guess it's just the fact that you're sort of born without a choice. You're just sort of forced into this life. And I guess there's not really, I wouldn't say a positive message overall. It's mostly just me sort of trying to explain that, I was put here with no choice and the pain and suffering I go through is given to me whether I wanted that or not. So it's essentially, it's just like the cycle of life and death. Like, it's just like you're born, you get no say in it, and you're just going to have to sort of find a way to navigate through life that way.
And even the cover, mate, is brutal, but it's hard to look away from. So, tell us what's happening there.
Yeah, essentially, it's basically like the concept of the album, but put into art form. It's done by a painter named Louis Braquette. He's from, I want to say he's from Brooklyn, New York, but he's American. It's yeah, basically it's the concept of the album. It's you've got a human form and you've got this like almost deity. It does kind of look a bit demonish. It's sort of not really that. It's just like a deity trying to pull from the human form, but being stuck in the human form still.
And I think what makes History Rotten Teeth even more remarkable is the fact that it's your first ever album, bro. Like most bands play it safe or comfortable with their first album, but you went the opposite way. You just went all out. Very impressive.
Yeah, oh cheers, man. I appreciate that. I mean, it's the first piece of music that I have written fully, like instrumentally and vocally, start to finish in my life. Like I've always been a guitarist in bands prior. I've been vocalist of other bands and stuff like that, but it was the first time my old band fell apart, and I just went, I'm not going to sit around and wait. I'm just going to start writing music. And I'm fortunate enough that I can obviously do the vocals as well. So yeah, it was my first outing. I reckon I wrote about 19 songs and I cut it down to 8, and then we just kept refining them as a band through there. Like we got all the boys' input. Our producer had a hand, but yeah, we're really proud of what we've done on a first release. It feels cohesive. It feels like its own little world, and that's all I could really want.
So being a debut album, like how much thought and planning went into every stage of it? You know, like were you very meticulous with things?
Yeah, I've been planning a lot of what's sort of coming out now. Like we've been sitting on a lot of this stuff for over 6 months to a year. But for example, like to give you an idea of how I sort of work, I've already planned out most of the concept for album 2. The visual side, especially, like, so we're a very heavily aesthetic band. Like we've picked what color themes we're going with, and I haven't even finished writing it yet. Like all of it is very much as important as the music to me. So I guess like when I was still writing the demos for HissThroughRottenTeeth, I was saving mood boards of colors and stuff like that, or like certain patterns, or like I was planning ideas for music videos maybe like a year before we'd even finished songs. I knew what the singles were. I knew exactly what I was going for aesthetically for our social media. But yeah, so it's planned pretty early in advance.
Yeah. And is there also use visuals, like you say, with aesthetics, but you use visuals to great effect through your music. So tell us more about that.
Yeah, I've never really liked bands that don't create some kind of a visual for me in my brain. Like I guess when I hear music, I picture stuff, and if I can't picture anything with the music, then it's not good music to me. So I always wrote with intention of a visual counterpart with it. So yeah, like a lot of it's just whatever I hear when I've written this song is what I try and put into a visual form. I really liked stuff that was influenced by like the 90s and early 2000s gothic aesthetics and industrial aesthetics. And though our music might be pretty removed from that, I feel like without the image, the band, it to me, it wouldn't sell that band to me. Like if I just heard my band and saw the imagery and we were just a bunch of guys in black hoodies, I wouldn't be excited about it. Like the music's great. I love the music. I back what we've written. But initially, if I'm just scrolling and I just see a band pop up, oh, another black hoodie band, I don't give a fuck about that. Like, it's just, yeah, like the visual is just as important for us. So we drew heaps on the early 90s, 2000s. Cradle of Filth, a really big influence to all of us musically, me as a vocalist, as well as aesthetically. I guess we were just trying to put like a modern spin on that sort of gothic, blended with a bit of the industrial, blended with that gritty early 2000s look of MTV. I guess we filmed our first music video in a Saw escape room because all I could picture when I wrote that song was like, oh, it sounds like like it looked to me that looked like the Saw bathroom. So then we found Saw escape room and we're like, perfect. So yeah, a lot of it's just, yeah, the 90s to like early 2000s, MTV generation, goth, mainstream aesthetic, Cradle of Filth, all that, gritty horror movies. Yeah, just that sort of thing.
All that adds up to what I reckon to be a pretty exciting live show, bro. So run us through Typical Melancholia live show.
Basically, we're there to turn heads. I don't like the idea of acting like a dickhead rock star, but I like the idea of putting on a show like a rock star. So, you know, on stage, it's very like it's calculated, I would say. I'm very much, I think all of us to a degree are very much playing characters. I guess like once the adrenaline takes over, you definitely get into like a different headspace and you're not quite like your usual self or whatever, but I'm trying to show a persona. I'm trying to be theatrical. I'm trying to put on a performance. So we try and make the shows, you know, we've only played the one show and we were very, like, it came up very quick after our first lot of rehearsals, but we were very planned going into it. I knew I wanted to do stuff like a stage walkout after we'd started playing, and like I knew what I was saying to the crowd weeks, months in advance. Like it's very planned, it's very articulate, but it's also very I don't know, we want to make it scary. I think that's what we're sort of going for. Scary, but like give it a rock star edge.
Right, so you got any shows coming up?
Yeah, this weekend we're playing Stay Gold with Gravemind as main support. And that's also got Vilify from Sydney and Body Prison from Melbourne, who are doing their debut show. It's being put on by What We Did on the Weekend podcast. So yeah, real stoked about that one. It should be a sick show. It's only our second one. Yeah, we're beyond stoked to be finally hitting the local scene and the touring racket after, you know, articulating and planning and working on this stuff for so long.
Very good. All right, Alex. Well, thanks for your time. No, mate, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you. History Rotten Teeth is out April 21st, and I've had the pleasure of having a listen to it. And I honestly, mate, I went into this thinking you guys were a new American band. You just were that good. Like, I'm not taking anything away from the other bands, but you just had that polished American feel to the album, man. So I got a bit of a shock when I found out you're Australian, which is good.
Oh, that's sick, man. I appreciate that. I mean, I think the same as well. When I hear like a really polished product or like something like that, I immediately think I'm like, oh, it's got to be like something American. So to hear that means the world to me, man. Thank you.
The stripes on my sleeve.